This lesson is meant as a tool for pattern recognition, so not to be used for you to make a deeper identification. First of all, I would suggest you only to watch this lesson if you have seen through self. If you haven't seen through self yet, then I recommend you to go back and start at the first lesson in the first Fetter, because this lesson is meant for you to recognize the underlying beliefs you hold and how they influence you in every aspect of your life, in your assumptions, your perceptions, your thought, speech, and action. It is not meant as another way for you to identify. If you listen to the lesson and catch yourself identifying, then please pause the recording, close your eyes and breathe. Make contact with your body and look into how your body feels right now, and then stay in that direct experience. When you have connected with your body, then stay connected while you turn the lesson back on. And make notes of the information that is useful for you. Feel also free to screenshot the pictures you would like to have on your phone as reminders. And then start to be aware of how this toxic starting point is visible in your everyday life via your assumption, perception, thought, speech, and action. It's very important that you do not use the information to judge yourself or to judge other people. If that happens, then you have just created an identification using the material instead of using it as a tool in direct pointing. So be curious, never judge. All insights you have are useful, no matter what the insights are. If you can't see how, then make contact with your body and look into how your body feels right now and stay in that direct experience. If some of the information in this lesson seem confusing or destabilizing, then remember that there's nothing you need to understand. All you need to do is look into a direct experience of your body and stay there. By creating that space, you're opening up to an awareness in your everyday life where you will start to see, hear, and feel differently, both towards yourself and to the people around you. So be curious. Don't identify with that either, though. Stay in your body. And if you need support, then make sure you reach out to either a therapist, your guide, a group, or a trusted friend. Enjoy. Hello. This is the 5th lesson in the second Fetter about doubt. And this is the lesson that you want to listen to if you're stuck in doubt. But it's also the lesson that you're going to listen to if you're stuck in the 4th or the 5th Fetter. There might be things in this lesson that will be relevant for why you are stuck, why you keep circling back. Obviously, the lesson that is for the 4th and the 5th is super useful for that, but there might be something in this lesson which is useful for you. I assume that when you're watching this recording and this lesson, that you have seen through self, that you have watched all the lessons in the first Fetter that is about identification and non-self. It's very much about identifying with thought. And for you to understand or make any use of what I'm talking about today, that needs to have fallen. That needs to be sorted. Because what we're talking about today is that identification that we have in the second Fetter, which is identification with feelings. In the last lesson, we talked about the bubble of reality. And in the lesson just before that, we talked about the ego and the authentic, that duality that we have in us with the ego and the authentic. And that is kind of like, we have the emotional indicators that are like the foundation. That's like the starting point from whatever we do. And then we choose either, the ego pathway or the ego solution, which is very much like a dead-end road. There's not much happening there. It's just me, myself, and I, selfing, and always, looking at how can I make this good for me. The way to kind of get out of that is doing the opposite. The antidote of that is the authentic. And the authentic is still selfing. It's still selfing. But instead of having a focus on what can you do for me, you have a focus on what can I do for you. So it's like, instead of being the contracting viewpoint and energy that is in the ego, it's more expanding. It's still selfing. And I also want to say that when I talk about the ego and the authentic, it's just concepts. It's just concepts. It's not real. It's not real at all. It's just to make some kind of understanding of why different mechanisms are as they are, and why we can see through self, and we know there's no I, we have no issue, there's no hooks in everything. We have gone through all of the fetters, and there's no issues anymore. But there are different instances where somebody says something, or we receive an email or a phone call, and then we just feel, that reaction happening. And we don't understand why, because there's nothing to react with or for or from. And yet it keeps happening. So in order to kind of like tease out that issue, we need to create some concepts. And the reason is that once upon a time in your life, you had the identification, which is a healthy, super healthy state for a child. Children need to have strong egos. They need to have very, very strong boundaries. And we need to own all that before we can let go of it. So if you have not had strong boundaries, and you have not had a strong ego, and you have not had proper self-worth, then you need to go back, sort it out, and then you can let go of it. So it's just a healing process. It's just a healing process. And there's nothing in this which is dangerous or too much or anything like that. There's no trigger warning with this, because it's there already. It's in you already. Obviously, if you feel that you need help, and you need a therapist, and you need somebody to support you, then obviously do that. This is a YouTube video. I assume that you are, an independent and responsible adult. The only thing I would like to say about this particular lesson is that you need to have seen through self before you watch this one. So if you haven't, I would like for you to pause and watch the lessons from the first Fetter, and then return to this when you have seen through self. So when I talked about the ego and the authentic, the two different ways that we can choose it, and that there's a gap between the ego and the authentic, and that is where you are in the observer. It's where there's no opinions, there's no preferences, there's no expectations, there's nothing. There's just observing what is. You're an anthropologist. You have no skin in the game at all. You're just observing what is happening and looking at it from above onto the maze, so you can kind of see the way out of the maze. That's the gap between the two. And just like there's a gap between the ego and the authentic, there's also a gap between the authentic and the void, as we call it. And when people talk about shunyata, or they talk in Buddhism, or they talk about non-dualism, and they talk about that just being, that's that. But before we can get to that, all the other stuff needs to be cleaned out. All the other stuff needs to be sorted out. Otherwise, you will just be spiritual bypassing all of it, which means that you're going to go, but there is no I. There's no issue at all. I had a really, really traumatic childhood, but I realized that, there's no hooks in it because there's no I, so I'm fine. That's gaslighting and spiritual bypassing, and you're really, really not doing yourself a favor. If you have any kind of reaction to anything, if you have any kind of flares coming up with anger, somebody's doing something, saying something, and you get like, rah, like that, and then it's sorted, but you get that, then you need to look into it. There's more for you to look at, because we're not animals. It's animals that get that. Human beings, we don't need to. We can meet ourselves with space and unconditional acceptance and love and compassion, and then be with whatever it is that needs to be looked at and be cared about, and then dissolve it. And that's what we are talking about today. When I talked about in the ego and the authentic, and I talked about the bubble of reality, I talked about a starting point. And I am circling back to that in the last lesson in this Fetter. These lessons that you have in this Fetter, all of them are connected, and I wish that I could give them to you telepathically right away, all of them at the same time, because that's how they're supposed to be heard. So when you have watched all of them, it might be an idea to start over and watch all of them again, because you will have a different understanding of it. And I can also recommend you to make notes. Whatever comes up, while I'm talking, either things I say, but more importantly, things that you come to think of or realize or want to look more into, and then you write it down in your notebook. And you can take that up with your guide, or you can take it up if you're going to Vince's meeting on Sundays. But when I talked about the starting point, and as I said, I'm going to circle back and talking more about that next time. What I'm going to talk about today is the toxic starting point, and that's why this lesson is it's difficult. It is difficult. I'm going to say a lot of things which are super, super conceptual, and you're going to freak out a lot, even though it's super conceptual. I'm also going to say a lot of things where you think, oh, that's me. No, that's me. No, that's me. Which is completely fine. Make sure you make notes and then reflect on it. Instead of making an intellectual decision or thought about what it is, then feel into it. Feel into how it feels. And again, it's just a concept. You don't need to decide which of the 3 types you are. You don't need to do that at all. It's just for you to get the information and start to see, things falling into place in a different way. And we're not done with all the 10 fetters yet. We're getting there. This is just one more piece to the puzzle. One more piece of information for you to tease out everything. So what we're talking about today is about the toxic starting point. And the toxic starting point is very, very much tied into childhood experiences. It's very much tied into boundaries and lack of boundaries. Tied into experiences that you have had where you might have had a very clear sensation about what you want or what you don't want, what you need and what you don't need, who you are and who you aren't. You might have had a very clear experience and sensation about that, but that boundary to that has been disrespected. And in the 6th Fetter, I'm talking much, much more about boundaries, because that's relevant for the 6th Fetter. For now, I just want you to know that this has something to do with boundaries. It has something to do with the core foundation of who you believe you are, who you believe you were. And I am aware there is no I and all of that. Please let go of that. Just listen to this so it can kind of like untangle itself. When you were a child, your mind wasn't fully developed, both physically. Your brain wasn't fully developed. It's not developed fully until we're 19. So your brain wasn't fully developed. You didn't have any psychological or emotional maturity. You didn't have, the intellectual capacity. You weren't able to understand consequences until you were about 7. So we have had a lot of experiences in our lives where we didn't have the capacity to deal with what happened. And not necessarily the capacity to deal with what happened, but to deal with what we assumed happened. And that's a very, very important point. And also why you don't need to go to therapy for 20 years, and dive into every single minute detail that happened in your childhood. You don't need to point fingers at mom or dad or whoever was in your life. You don't need to do that. The only thing you need to do is find out how, when you think about your childhood, what is the overall theme? If you look into that. And if I'm asking you to kind of decide which, for example, if I say your first year, if you remember that, what was the overall theme, if there was any issue at all? Maybe there wasn't any issue, maybe there was. But If you can choose between fear, anger, guilt, and shame, which one would be the overall theme? First of all, about your entire childhood, what is the overall theme? What is the underlying sensation that you have, or feeling that you have, or emotion that you have when you look back on your childhood? And if you dive more into it and look into when you were 5 or 3 or 7 or 12, then look into what was the overall theme. Because the thing is, when we sit as adults and look back on our childhood, a lot of things doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense why we have that profound feeling of shame when we can't really recall anything that happened that was shameful to that extent where it feels like. But it could be a very, very small thing. Remember, your brain wasn't fully developed. Your perception was based on your psychological maturity, which wasn't there, your emotional maturity, which wasn't there. So that immense sense of shame that you have in your life, it might be because you put some yellow beads in with some blue beads, in kindergarten. And the teacher came and saw you and went like, no, come on, you see they're yellow, they're supposed to go in there, they're not supposed to be with the blue. And you would feel so shameful. That's enough. That's enough. Enough experiences like that. And then you have a foundation of shame, which makes absolutely no sense because you had a great childhood. But it's because we're trying to understand the trauma that was created with an adult brain, with the psychological maturity that you have now, with the emotional maturity that you have now. And you can't. It doesn't make any sense. And that's why in a lot of instances, you don't need to look into it. The only thing you need to do is feel how it feels to be you now, how it feels to be in your body now, how it feels to look back at your childhood now, how it feels to breathe into your body. Are there any places in your body that you do not want to be in? It can be in your tummy, it can be in your chest, it can be in your arms, it can be anywhere. Is there anywhere in your body where you do not want to be? And when I say body, I don't mean senses, because a thing that we tend to do when it's really, really uncomfortable being in the body, it is that we go into the senses instead, which means that you go into the sense of feeling. How does it feel with the fabric on my skin? How does it feel to have wet hair? How does it feel to sit and look at a beautiful view? How does it feel to listen to beautiful music? And being in the senses can be so beautiful and wonderful and completely bypassing the entire trauma that is in the body that you just do not want to feel. So just be aware that there is a trap, that when I say, looking into the sensory experience, there is a trap in that. You need to be in a place where it's comfortable to be in your body and you enjoy having a body. You enjoy smelling food, eating, going for walks, using your body for exercises, do stretching, do meditations. You enjoy having a body and you enjoy all the experiences you can have having a body. But in order to do that, you need to be in the body. You need to have an experience from the inside out in the body. And if you have a toxic starting point, you are not in your body, because the body the body is keeping the score. The body knows exactly what happened and exactly how you felt when it happened. And those experiences are still in your body. And when you start to connect with your body via stretching or exercises or anything like that, when you start to connect with that, you feel all that ickiness, all those uncomfortable feelings that you don't want, because you get in contact with your body. So circling back to you being a child and you had an experience, let's say with the beads, where you had that feeling of shame. It could also be anything else that you experienced where Maybe you didn't want to go to kindergarten and you were told that you need to go to kindergarten, and you love it. You love it in kindergarten, and you were crying and you didn't want to go, and you were there and it was horrendous and horrible, but at some time you forgot about it, and then you were okay. And then you were picked up, and your parents said, see, you love kindergarten. And you feel in you that, no, I don't. I absolutely, utterly hate kindergarten. But because you trust your parents, we trust the parental guidance that we have. We then tend to listen more to them. So when they say, see, you loved kindergarten, and you can feel, no, I don't, then you start to doubt what you actually feel. Okay, I thought that I didn't. I thought this was a body no experience that I don't like. I don't like kindergarten. But apparently I'm wrong because they say that I love it. Okay. And then you have your boundary, your inner boundary is moved. We have two types of boundaries. We have three types of boundaries, but we have inner and outer boundaries. But I'm going to talk more about that in the 6 where we talk about form. Just for now, be in the experience in your body right now that you might have had experiences where your boundaries were moved, which created a reaction in you as a type of survival mechanism in you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because when we do that, we create a toxic starting point, which is that the starting point that we have is based in something that we do to avoid something else. And that starting point, the toxic starting point, is kind of like a personality a fake personality that we build. But we build that fake personality in order not to feel how vulnerable we are when we don't have any boundaries, and how painful experiences we have had, that we don't want to feel that. So to avoid ever feeling like that again, we turn into this other persona, which is not you at all, but it's part of a survival. It's part of a survival mechanism. And the funny part of it, tragic part of it, I don't really know what word to use. The mind-boggling part of it is that whatever it is that is underlying, that you are trying to avoid, what you are trying to escape from, since it has now become your starting point to avoid that, it is present in everything you do. Because you are trying to avoid that, it's the only focus that you have. And that is why it's toxic. When we're creating a reality around one of the 3 types of ego, or 3 types of selfing, we do it in order to make sense, and therefore also justify why we do as we do. And that's one of the things that makes it really, really difficult to talk about. Because if you're not ready for this, if it's not for now, then you're going to justify and divert all the way through. And then you are better off not watching this yet. Wait until you're ready. There's no rush. There's no rush. But what you need to do in order to heal is just create space to what is. It's coming into your body, either with mindfulness of breathing, or with metta bhavana, or with just sitting. So come back into the body where you just allow a body sensation. Start to do stretching where you allow your body to be stretched and to be moved. You can do different movements, either to music or just like you want to move, to feel how it feels to be in the body, and for the body to have different physical sensations of exercise, but where it's done with a lot of compassion. So I'm not talking about, drill sergeant to the gym or going and prepping for a marathon or something like that. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making exercises and movements where you're in your body, where you kind of get back into your body. And whatever comes up, you allow to be there, and you spend time with it. So if you have a contraction in your chest, or if you have a crazy stomach ache, or you have insane headache, as soon as you start to do things that is outside of what you are used to, that is really, starting to tickle that foundation belief that you have, then it's very normal to experience headache or tummy ache or knee ache that is coming up. And just allow it to be there. Just allow it to be there. It's okay. It's completely okay. It's the body that is telling you that there's something here. There's something here that really, really needs a lot of love and a lot of compassion. And create that space for it. And the whole point is that by creating that space, you will dissolve the toxic starting point. You might still have traits that keeps coming up over and over, but that is just because this is a survival mechanism, and it's completely fine. But it will dissolve itself, and it will leave you in a space where you have a new starting point. And it's also why it's really good for you to have a guide or to be in a meeting, either with Vince or in other meetings where you can be supported, dissolving that toxic starting point into a more healthy starting point. So if you look at this one here, you can see that the toxic starting point is either in the toxic ego or the toxic authentic. And the toxic ego is in its foundation selfish. It's then split into two, which is both of them are bullies. One of them is the aggressive bully. The other one is the passive aggressive bully. And if you look at the toxic authentic, that is when we have, the altruist that is thinking more about them than yourself. So it's still selfing, but your selfing is happening in a self-sacrifice. And that turns into the chameleon that has absolutely no idea of who they are. The solution for all of them is unconditional acceptance, love, and compassion. It's creating space, connecting with the body, and creating space to whatever is, and then meeting it with unconditional acceptance, love, and compassion. Even though we look at the three, that there is like the aggressive bully, there's a passive aggressive bully, and there's the chameleon. Even though it looks, when we look at it like that, like it's three completely different things. It's all three are, coming from a survival mechanism. All three has been repeated that many times that there's a hormonal pattern connected with it, which means that different hormones are released or not released, and in that a persona is created. Another thing which is with all three is they have 5 common denominators, so 5 things that are the same for all of them. And the first one is that they have that foundational I am not, I should be. It is ego, it is selfing, it is taking a starting point that is in a certain way. I do not want this, I want that, I want something else. Whatever is, I am trying to avoid. I don't want to feel like this, so I want something else. And as you hear, it's very, very clearly 4-5 Fetter, which is about all the desire, all the wants, all the things we want, and ill will, all the things we do not want. But the reason why I'm talking about it now is that the underlying beliefs in it is connected with doubt. So I am going to circle back to this when we get to the 4th and the 5th. The things that we're talking about today is really important for you to move on if you are stuck in the second fetter about doubt. The second common denominator that they have is that they view themselves from the outside in. It's based on how other people see me. Every single thing they do is based on how other people see me. There's nothing from the inside out. Everything is from the outside in. A third thing is that they have their focus, all 3 types have their focus in what they can, what they say, what they do. None of them have any focus in being, in who they are. And that's why that is the solution to all 3, is slowing down, and getting a connection with the body. Having a focus on who you are, on being, not in what you can, what you say, or what you do. That's completely irrelevant. The 4th common denominator for all 3 types is that they use time and money as excuses. So whenever you hear yourself making an excuse, well, I haven't got time for that, or that's way too expensive, I can't do that, then be aware that right now you're locked into a toxic starting point. And the reason why you use time or money as an excuse for something is that it's in and tickling about your survival mechanism, right? But it's more comfortable to talk about time and money than it is to talk about that underlying belief, that underlying icky, disgusting feeling of survival mechanism that is being activated in you. You do not want to get in contact with that. And that's why you deflect and talk about time and money instead, and giving time and money as an excuse. And the last one, it's diversions. All three are using diversions over and over and over and over. And as soon as you start to get, into something, you divert your attention away from it. When that happens, instead of keep going and going and going, then stop. Please just stop. Because right now you're trying to divert from something that you're not ready to look at. You need to respect that. If you have an issue with boundaries, then don't be the one that is pushing your boundary, Respect your boundary. If you have the feeling of diverting all the time, usually you will experience it with, if you're not aware of it yourself, you will experience in a group, or that your guide is telling you you're diverting right now. If that happens more than 2 or 3 times in one setting, in one discussion, then you need to stop. You need to stop. It will dissolve itself. You're just not ready yet. And you need to create space for that. You need more work with acknowledging. You need much more work with love and compassion to what is. And you need to create space. So just stop. Instead of pushing and diverting, you're not reaching anywhere anyway, because you are diverting all the time. You're deflecting all the time. So you're not going anywhere anyway. So just evoke compassion and love for yourself when your guide or your group or yourself is finding out that you're diverting and diverting and diverting. So I would like for you to look at your childhood. If you just sit and breathe for a bit, close your eyes and look at your childhood. What is the overall theme? Is it fear, anger, guilt, or shame? Those are kind of like the foundational feelings that we had. So if you, for example, had envy towards a sibling, that will be under one of them. If you had the feeling of always missing out, that would also be under one of them. Or if you had a feeling of just not fitting in, that is also under one of them. It's just identification happening. It's not real. And it's completely safe to look at. No one did anything wrong. And no one could have done it anything better than what they did. And you looking back at your childhood and thinking that you should have done better, you can't do that when you look into retrospect. What happened, happened. And that's how it was. And that's okay. So make a deep breath. Are you ready to look at this? So in the third lesson, we talked about the 2 different types you can be, the ego or the authentic, where you have the gap in the middle. What we're going to look at now is the toxic starting point. And so it's still about the ego and it's still about the authentic, but it's just with a toxic starting point. And if we start with the aggressive bully, the aggressive bully is a person that has an overall theme of resentment, that you feel resentment and you get what you want in life with force. The ones that are, CEOs and, really just, plowing through. You've probably seen all the YouTube advertisings with Bitcoin guys going like, you can do it, and all that. That's that. That has an underlying belief in I am not, I should be. And the value lies in material gain. It lies in forceful gain. Fake it until you make it. That's the foundation in it. There's always a planning for the future. There's never a focus in the now. There's always a planning for the future. And the symptoms that this type of person gets because of the hormonal pattern is always what I call too much symptoms. So too much diseases. So that's, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, pain in the body, inflammation in the body, ulcers, all kind of deteriorate diseases where bones or muscles or function completely just vanish and deteriorate. Stress, and it's also stress related anxiety. So if you have anxiety, you have they're like two different types. There's the stress induced one where you have panic attacks, or there's the other one that I'm going to circle back to and talk about in a second. So the overall feel that you have with this person, it might even be you, that you already now go like, yep, that's me. That's me. It's too much symptoms, especially about the part about pain. That there might be pain in the body, but you might not feel the body. You can just feel that somewhere there's something not right, and it's super painful. You can't pinpoint where the pain is. Or you are very, very aware of where the pain is, and it's difficult to walk, and it's difficult to do different things, and you feel more and more constricted in your movements. It's like your physical expression gets less and less and less and less because there's just too much pain in the body. So it's also when you have like inflammatory diseases where you get like in your joints, or you have like flares coming up, or inflammatory diseases or conditions with your bowel, all of that where it's just like too much is tied in with this type of personality. And then this person usually have pain in the lower back. There's a lot of pain in the lower back, stiffness in the lower back, where it feels like there's no movement. Issues when you have been sitting down and you're getting up and walking, and then it hurts in the lower back. This person here has a main theme in the fourth and the fifth fetter. And this person here is usually stuck there. And it's usually stuck there because there is so much shaming and blaming happening. And the shaming and blaming is on an internal level, in secrecy, it's about yourself. You're blaming yourself for a lot of things, and you're shaming yourself for a lot of things. But on an external level, you're always pointing fingers. It's always somebody else that should have done differently. And you are, completely fine with letting them know. Nobody is in doubt when this type of person has an issue, because this person will let everyone know that there is an issue. It's about, righting a wrong. And I am right and you are wrong. Another thing this person does is evoke shame. These type of people are really, really, really skilled at making other people feel shameful. And it's because of the underlying feeling of shame they have themselves, like we talked about in the last lesson about the bubble of reality, that whatever you do towards other people is just a mirror of what is happening in you. So when the aggressive bully are evoking blaming and shaming in other people, remember, if you experience that with someone doing that towards you, that person is talking about themselves. And if this is something you do, then please, be kind. Be kind. First of all, towards yourself. Whatever you're blaming and shaming the other people for, it's just a mirror. You're holding a mirror up, and what is happening is that you're seeing something, your survival mechanism is being activated, and then instead of looking at what the pain is, you deflect, and it's the other ones that need to sort this out. We are circling back to this in the fourth and the fifth. The way that you tend to create safety for yourself is that you create material status. You have a feeling of creating safety through accomplishments. through status symbols. You have a very hierarchically view where people are like higher or lower than others, and you have a very, very clear focus on who is higher than you. The ones that are lower than you don't really bother with, but the ones that are on par with you are in competition with, and the ones that are higher than you are looking up to and striving to become like. That's how you view the world. So you are in that constant competitive comparing, not with people beneath you, because they are beneath you, but with the people on par with you or higher than you. So you have an inner feeling of failure. And that inner feeling of failure is happening regardless of what is happening outside, because nothing is ever good enough. You can always do things better, faster, quicker, more. It's that constant +1 game that you're playing, where nothing is ever good enough. And when you have won an award for something, next time you want to do it quicker, faster, higher, better, more. So regardless of any kind of external conditions, you always have that foundational feeling of failure. You tend to be very greedy. Whatever you have is never good enough. You always want more. And at the same time, you're not really good at keeping things. It's not so much about having it as it is as achieving it. It's the achievement that you go for. It's not so much having achieved it. That doesn't really count anymore, because now it's something else that you're going for. So it's like that constant +1 game that you're playing. So everything also revolves around that materialistic gain and materialistic security. It's about sensual and sexual pleasures. It's about seeking, sensual pleasures with food and with wine and with sex and with experiences. It's like that constant seeking, the constant creating of drama, but not in the equal kind of way, but in the competitive kind of way. And whatever you're going after, you go after that without any thought of consequences, without any thought of anyone else. If this is what you want, then you go for it. And there's no one, if anybody is getting in your way, well, they should get out of the way, shouldn't they? So there's no looking into or taking other people into account. The only things that can motivate you is that need to fulfill your own needs. The needs of other people is completely overlooked. And if other people are standing in your way, or other people are preventing you from meeting your needs, then you react aggressively and angrily, and you have a huge need to be heard. People need to listen to you, which means that you're very often very loud. Now, what you need to do is, first of all, obviously understand that this is just part of a survival mechanism. This is an underlying belief that you have about you not being okay as you are. And I'm telling you, you are. There's no need for you to fight anymore. There's no one to fight with. Whatever underlying belief you have, and whatever experience that you had that you needed to fight to protect yourself or to protect others in your family, it's done. You can breathe. And the meditation I would recommend for you is the mindfulness of breathing. It's where you get in contact with your breath. I have a meditation which is here on the channel for this Fetter that I really can recommend you to use. Bring focus into your breathing. And whenever you're feeling that instant ignition of anger or irritation or annoyance or attack that is coming up in you, it also might be that you are telling yourself, but I'm doing it to defend myself. I'm defending myself. That's part of this. It's part of this, because there's no need to. There's no need to. You can seek peaceful resolve in things. And the reason why you think you can't is only because that was what you were taught. But it's not like that anymore. It's only like that in you. Other people are not like that. And you're the only one who's suffering. You're the only one that is really, really suffering, both physically with all the different symptoms that you have, but also emotionally, because you're constant on guard. You're constant, on guard of being attacked. You're constant securing yourself, making sure that nothing can go wrong, that everything is the way that you want it. There's so much control involved. And you're probably here on this channel because you have realized that it's not like that. It's only in your mind that is how it is. It's not like that. Reality is not like that. So bring a focus into being. Breathe. Bring a focus into how it is to be in your body. Bring a focus into body enjoyment. Start to do things because you enjoy it. Walking barefoot in grass. Sit and look in clouds. Hug a tree. You have a lot of focus on doing. So if you want to do something, then do things that bring awareness into being. Another thing I would like for you to do is to be content every day. Find something that you're content with every single day. And when you're in a situation where you feel that you are ignited right away, can you stop? Can you breathe while you're there? Can you let go of it? Can you find the joy of experiencing right now, where you're not going into a fight, you're not going into a battle, but you are content with what is, and you look into the joy of experiencing. What is the joy right now? Can you breathe with that? Can you be in a body right now that has that feeling of fight, that feeling of defense? You need to defend yourself. Can you relax with that? You're here now. You're safe. It's only in your mind that you believe that there's something about you that is not the way that it should be. You're exactly like you're supposed to be. There's nothing wrong. So breathe and make contact with your body. See if you can heal that part of you and just make contact with the body. I also would like for you to, since you have that focus on success and accomplishment, I would like for you to start to have a focus on inner feeling of success, which means it's about your breath. It's about an inner experience, a body experience of a smell or a bodily experience of a taste. It's how it feels to be in the body when you stretch. Sit down on the floor, stretch. Lie down on the floor, stretch. Be in your body, make contact with your body, and then have a focus on inner success, an inner feeling of success. And also go back into finding a contentment in what is, because you are so activated always about achieving, and you know as well as I, as soon as you have achieved something, it's like discarded like a toy, back in the corner. You're not interested anymore because you're on to the next thing. Breathe. Get into finding an enjoyment in what is. So when you are standing in front of something that you really, really want, whether it's an ice cream or $1 million company that you want to overtake, either way, either which one it is, stand in front of it and do nothing. Breathe. Make contact with your body and find the contentment in what is right now. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have the ice cream or the $1 million company. I'm not saying that. How would I know? I'm just saying that just before you do it, make sure that you're completely and utterly founded in your body. You have a foundation in your body. You are centered in your body. You're present and aware right now. And whatever decision you make is made from that starting point, not from the fear or the anger or the guilt or the shame that are the toxic starting point that has created you into this, aggressive bully. You're not like that. If you find a picture of you from when you were 3 years old or 5-year-old, you were not that aggressive bully. That was something that you were conditioned to become afterwards. So unravel all of it. Come back to the body, to where you are right now, and connect with who you are right now. Another thing I would like for you to do is to start to connect with earth. So hug a tree. I said that before. Being out in nature. See if you can sit, in the grass or on a bench somewhere and you just connect with the earth. You have your feet planted on the ground. Feel how it is to be connected with the earth. You inhale the air and the clouds. Feel how it is to inhale a cloud. Connect yourself with the earth. You can inhale, the cloud, and you can exhale into the ground. Feel that connection with planet Earth. Feel that connection with every single being that is passing you while you're sitting there. It might be an ant. It might be a butterfly. It might be a bee. It might be another person. And just connect with other beings. So we are completely away from that aggressive bully. You're still that person, and it's still fine. This is just you and I knowing what you're practicing on the inside. And that will slowly start to, with a ripple effect, come out to the outside as well. So you can still be tough, and you can still be, protecting yourself in all the ways that you want in the outside. It's completely fine. You don't need to change anything. I just want you to expand yourself from the inside. So you connect with something more. You connect with that connection with the earth and connection with other beings. And then when you're there, I would like for you to repeat a mantra that you repeat over and over and over and over. And your mantra is, I love myself, I'm safe. I love myself, I'm safe. And you can say that with an inhalation, I love myself, and you exhale and say, I'm safe. I love myself, I'm safe. And exhale. And you do that over and over and over and over. If you can make it so every single thought you have, try it out as an experiment. Every single thought you have is that, I love myself, I'm safe. And it's the only thing you repeat over and over and over. What I'm trying to do with you is to stabilize your hormonal pattern, because you are way too adrenal. You're way too caught into cortisol, norepinephrine, and adrenaline, because that is how you survive. That was the signals that your body was given when you were a child, or whenever the trauma happened, that you needed to, fight. It's either fight, freeze, or flight. For you, it was fight. It helped you to fight. And it's great. I mean, you made it this far. I'm really happy for you. But as you also know, it really has created a lot of issues in your life. And this is a way to look into that and create space for that and be with that. And if you have any questions, feel free to write me. The other type I would like to talk about is a bit like the first type with the aggressive bully, but this one is a passive aggressive bully. And there are many similarities. There are many similarities where the aggressive bully has a hormonal picture of fighting. So do you, if you are in the passive aggressive bully. I would like to say, before I start to talk about this, that if you acknowledge that you are a passive aggressive bully, I really would like to congratulate you, because the majority of people don't want to be here. They're fine with being aggressive. They're fine with being submissive. They do not want to be passive aggressive. So for you to acknowledge this is really huge. It really is. And I'm going to say some things that you don't want to hear, but you know them already. You know them already. You know that this is you already, even before I say them. And when you hear them, instead of judging yourself, because you really have a tendency with judging yourself. Instead of judging yourself and comparing yourself in the sense that you think that the passive aggressive is the worst kind, it's much better to be the aggressive or to be the submissive. Much better. That is just part of the pattern of envy which you have. And you have a huge streak of envy. I know that envy normally is like one of the things that nobody wants to acknowledge that they have. But by not acknowledging, you will never ever heal the part that needs to be healed. Because when you have turned into a passive aggressive bully, and that is the toxic starting point, you have experienced a childhood where it wasn't safe for you to have any kinds of wants or needs. Whenever you had a want or a need, you experienced to be dismissed or ridiculed or anything like that. There was an interaction with you whenever you had that need, but you very, very quickly learned that that's not the way to get it. If you have a want or you have a need, it's not going to be met. Mom and dad are not meeting it. Your parental guidance is not meeting it. What you very quickly learned that you needed to do was to manipulate the situation for you to be met with basic needs. Which means that maybe you found out that it was super useful to, when you needed attention or love or affection or compassion, then you couldn't just ask and get that. You had to become sick, or you had to be bullied, or you had to, fall and hurt your knee, or something had to happen. So you had a justification of having basic needs met. And that is so, so sad. So for you to sit and refuse that you today are a passive-aggressive bully, it's just making everything worse. And I wish I could have come up with a better word for it, the loving one that can't, receive. I could have called it that instead. Because you have a tendency, you very, very often hold space for a lot of people in a lot of different ways, but you do it in order for them to repay you. And again, it's not something that you want to hear. You don't want to be the one that is conditional with everyone. But if you are, then please just hear me out. That sense of envy is something, when you look back on your childhood, that you remember that, they had nicer parents and they had better clothes on and they were better at school and they were, more successful or more liked or more pretty or more handsome or whatever. And you looked at them with envy. You looked at them and wished that was you. And just imagine for a second being a child and wishing for you to be someone else. Do you see how much that child needs compassion and needs love? I really can recommend you to find old photographs of your childhood when you remember this sense of envy. And it's going to be difficult because we have such a diversion towards that. And you particularly tend to divert. If you made it this far in this description, I would like to congratulate you, because the majority of people that are here in the passive-aggressive, they have skipped this part. They would rather be in the submissive or in the aggressive. You tend to identify yourself with the submissive person more. But the thing is that the difference between the two is that the submissive person never lets anyone know that they suffer. You let everyone know that you suffer. Everyone knows that your life is hard and that you are struggling and that the bus was delayed and that you couldn't get a seat and that you forgot your umbrella on the bus, or that Janice, she's always on your case. You might even be Janice, And this is the part that you don't want to hear, But you really, really need to have compassion with that part of you. So the theme is an overall feeling of envy. And you have the idea that you only get what you need and what you want if you manipulate people to do it. You can't say straight up, I would like to have next weekend off work, or I would like a hug. You know that cannot happen. You know from childhood that cannot happen, but that was then. It's not like that anymore. What you need to work with, it is still about boundaries, So the boundaries that has been crossed with you were about you not having your needs met when you needed it. And what you need to look into now is how much you manipulate the people around you in order for them to meet your needs. But the problem is that because you never ask to have your needs met, you never ever get your needs met the way that you want them met. You only get it the way, you get like the crumbs of the table, You don't ever get what you really, really need because you're still not asking for it. And then you hold it against the other people that they only give you the crumbs of the table, that you're not getting like a full loaf of bread. But if you had asked for that, you would have gotten that. And that is what you need to step into. You need to step into that power of you. The symptoms that you have are the opposite of the aggressive. So the passive aggressive, you have too little symptoms, which means that you have low blood pressure, you have low stomach acidity, you have low thyroid, you have a low libido, you have depression, in general, you have issues around your neck and your shoulders. So it's like the upper part. It's like from the cervical, from the base of the skull, the cervicals until around thoracic 2, that you have issues. And it is because you have an issue with connecting from your mind to your body, where the aggressive bully is more or less like a head on a stick. You have the issue also with connecting with the body, but you tend to be more heavy in the body, which means that you might have a wider bum if you're a woman, you might have wider thighs, you might, if you're a woman, look more pear-shaped, where it's wider over the hips. If you're a man, you might have wider thighs than normal men. You might have a wider bum than men normally have. And it is about the hormonal pattern that you have, just like the other two the aggressive that I just talked about, that it was mainly about the adrenal glands and adrenaline and norepinephrine and cortisol in your body. Is more about the thyroid hormones. And that is about energy in action. So it's about doing things. And so the pattern that you have with the different symptoms that you have is too low. You have low body temperature. You are usually very cold. Your bum cheeks are usually very cold. And you have jaw issues. You have ears issues. You have headaches. You have type 2 diabetes, or you have insulin resistance. So it's symptoms where it's like everything is too little. You're lacking energy in your body. And that's because there's no energetic action in doing things, because you're just sitting and waiting for the crumbs from the table. You have a tendency to ruminate about the past, where the aggressive bully is very much about the future and improving the future all the time. What you tend to do is look back at all the things you didn't do, all the things you didn't say. And it's down to, having a cup of coffee, and after you had the coffee, you think, I should have had a glass of water instead. Or it's down to the past of things that you didn't do, didn't take the job that you wanted to, and didn't, stand up for yourself. You tend to ruminate about that, which is super unkind. There's nothing more unkind than ruminating about the past, because you cannot change it. You're caught. You're caught. In whatever issue is there, you're caught because you cannot change it. And then you have an issue to complain. Now, this is another thing that you do not want to hear, but you tend to complain. You do. You tend to complain about other people, about the weather, about yourself all the time. You blame as well. But complaining is that's your go-to. That's your junk. And it's very much in line with with reality shows, where it's just about complaining. You love that kind of shows. You love that because it's straight into, and it's also about things that should have been done differently, that can't be changed at all. So that is very much complaining. That's your thing. Again, your main theme is in the 4th and the 5th, and I'm going to get back to you when we come to the 4th and the 5th, because there are so many things that you're going to realize right now. If you are already further along in the Fetter work and you're back here because you're starting to untangle why you cannot get moving on with the 4th and the 5th, it's probably about your toxic starting point here. The person that you are tends to create safety through manipulation. You have very early on been taught that asking to have your needs met is not going to happen, and it's unsafe to do so. So instead of asking to have your needs met, you manipulate people into the way that you want them to meet the needs. The hierarchically way that you view the world, you are still in the ego, right? So it's the same as the aggressive bully, but you're just a passive aggressive bully. The way that you view the world here is in a constant envious comparing with other people. So where the aggressive bully is in competition to people that are like them, they completely dismiss the people beneath them. But the people that are like them, above them, they're in constant competition with. You don't do that. You're envious. You're envious of what other people have. So you look at what everything you have and view that as a given. But everything that they have, you want to have too. And it's not in the competition, it's in the envy. It's in the comparison with envy. Because you assume that everything you have, they have too, but they have more and you also want that. Why do they have more? Why do they get more holiday? Why do they get, why are their gardens so nice? Why are their children getting all the good grades? So it's about complaining with an undertone on envy all the time. So that underlying feeling that you have with, when is it my turn? Seriously, when is it my turn? It happens because you don't ask. All you need to do is ask. You need to place yourself in a situation where you feel safe in you and it's safe for you to ask. As long as you don't do that, the only thing you will get are the crumbs of the table, and you will always sit and wonder, when is it my turn? When is it my turn? Everything always revolves around that endless row of diversions. You really, really tend to divert all the time. When you are speaking with your guide, there's an issue that you have an underlying issue that you would like to deal with, but that's too painful. Instead of asking directly about that, what you would like to deal with, you talk about something else. And that something else, the guide will help you resolve, and then you talk about something else. And the guide will help you resolve, and then you talk about something else. It's endless, because what you really, really want to talk about, you don't address. You expect other people to see your need and meet it. And for you, it's really, really important to be suffering, be struggling, and a friend calls you and asks you, how are you doing? I'm fine, you say. And they say, no, I can hear you're not fine. How are you doing? No, I don't want to talk about it, you say. And the friend said, come on, I'm here. Tell me. And then you tell them. That's super manipulative. But you have that feeling that if you call your friend and say, I really, really need to talk, then you are, you're so vulnerable in that, because you are completely, beamed back to your childhood, where wherever you had a need, it was not met. And we're talking about basic needs that were not met. So you needed to manipulate yourself to get it. And that's why you have ended up as an adult, where when you have something and you would like to talk about it, and even when you're asked into it, you still play a bit coy instead of just saying it. And in you, it doesn't count that you should need to call your friend and saying, I need to talk. That doesn't count in you. Your friend should see that you need it. And you play that game with your spouse as well. Your spouse should see that you need, to talk. The way that you're walking around, can't they see that you need attention? Can't they see that? And then you complain to all your friends about your partner not seeing you, not being there for you in any way. It's only because they're not doing it the way that you want them to. And that is with the toxic starting point, where you're not meeting your needs. You're not making sure that your needs are met, but you're demanding other people to meet them without telling them that they need to meet them. And then you get miffed when they don't. And in that, you have those constant diversions that are just arising all the time. which means that you're creating an utter mess around you. If you look around you, there's probably a mess. Probably. Because you tend to create a mess. You tend to half do things. Very, very rarely finish it before you start on something else. That's part of the diversion that you're doing. And what you need is to meet the need. Almost rhymed there. So the theme that you have is that manipulatory and lethargic person, where you want other people to meet the needs that you have. If you have to ask for it, it doesn't count. Other people need to meet the needs. Other people need to see you. You have a huge need to be seen. And you only feel that you count when you're seen. But you cannot ask other people to see you. You want them to see you without you asking for it. And that is where the passive aggressiveness comes in. So I hope that you can hear that I have so much love towards you. I have so much compassion towards you. I mean, I cannot even begin to imagine how it was you to be a child. To have the childhood that you have had, where the basic needs, it wasn't safe to ask to have the basic needs met. I'm really, really sorry that was your experience. I really, really would like for you to be kind towards yourself. Do not expect other people to be kind to you. It's your job to be kind to you. So I really would like for you to be kind to you. And one of the meditations that is very, very useful for that is the metta bhavana. And there is a meditation, I have it on my channel. I really would recommend you to use that. So you evoke loving kindness towards yourself and to other people. I would also like for you to have a focus on being. And that is, getting out of that underlying belief in something being better, further along, or should have been better in the past. Be here right now. Connect with your body. Feel what it is that you need right now and meet that need. Don't wait around for other people to give you a crumb. Ask for the bread loaf. Ask for it. Go for it. Whatever you want, you're completely entitled to. Whatever you need, you're completely entitled to. But you need to do that. You need to make sure that you meet that need. Nobody else are here on the planet to do that. You are. You are. And if you don't meet that need is never going to be met. And that little child in you deserves better. You bloody deserve better. So please connect with your body. Whatever you feel, stay with that. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Be with that. Whatever you feel, whatever comes up to the surface, be with that. Stop hating your body. Stop hating your thighs. Stop wanting to have more hair, less hair. Stop wanting, to lose weight or gain weight. Stop wanting anything to be different. You're fine. You're completely fine. And you're diverting. It's just a diversion. If you are, looking at losing weight, you're diverting. If you want to gain weight, you're diverting. If you want to be more clever and learn a new language and become more awakened, you're diverting. What is here right now? What are you experiencing in your body right now? What is alive in you right now? It's the only thing that needs your attention. So get back into that body enjoyment. I would like for you to start to go for walks or start to run if you can run. I would like for you to do something physically where you get up from the sofa and you do things. Because the issue is that you're waiting for things to happen and it's not happening. It's not happening. You're still sitting, like a little bird in the bird's nest, waiting for mom and dad coming to feed you. It's not happening. It's not happening. There is only you left. The only one that can meet your needs is you. So the body enjoyment that I would like for you to do, it's very much connected with doing. So if you want to roller skate, if you want to trampoline jump, if you want to go square dancing, if you want to, whatever you want to do, see if you can think back to your childhood. What did you enjoy? Did you love go for a bike ride? Did you enjoy to skip roads? Did you enjoy whatever you enjoyed? Dancing. Whatever you enjoyed, get back to that body enjoyment of doing. And then you need to do. And I also would like for you to have a focus on the everyday contentment. I know that it's so easy for you to look into the past and all the things that you should have done different. What are you content with right now? I know it's so easy to look into how things could be different, that, oh my God, now the food burned again. Oh my God, now that happened again. That constant complaining that you're experiencing, stop it. Just stop it. Please stop. Make contact with your body. Where do you feel contentment right now? It might be in your pinky. It might be in your tummy. It might be in your thighs. Wherever do you feel contentment right now in your body? Make contact with that. Another thing I would like for you to practice is experiencing that it is safe for you to express your needs. You don't need to manipulate people. It's safe for you to express your needs. And when I say that, I don't mean that people are going to throw you a parade and bring you a layer cake. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in you. If you express a need, let's say towards your partner or towards a friend, you express a need and they go like, no, I'm so sorry, not now. You want a hug? They can't give you that right now. In you, you are still safe. You're still safe. That sense of rejection that just happened, that has nothing to do with you. If you think it has to do with you, then look back at the lesson just before this one, the one about bubble of reality. They are not rejecting you at all, ever. They're not. They're just saying that they're not up for a hug right now, and they're entitled to do that. That's got nothing to do with you not having your basic needs met. What you did was what I asked you to do, and that is stating your needs. Say what you need. That is the only thing that you want. It's just stating a need that you have. It's not so much about if it's being met. It's not that important for you. The most important thing is to state the need that you have. And then I also would like for you to be aware of all the diversions. Whenever you have a feeling in you, you will divert. You're the type that will shop. Retail therapy, you will shop. You're the type that will eat. That will, even though you're full, you have a feeling, then you eat some more. You're the type that will divert yourself with flicking on Netflix or on Insta or Facebook, or you're the type of person that will constantly divert from what you actually need. And I really, really would like for you to get into your body and meet the need, please. Another thing I would like for you to do is to start to be honest towards yourself. And I know it's really, really a tall ask. In the beginning, just start from the inside. When you feel something, be honest about that. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't even have to write it down. But just be honest towards what it is you feel. Because the issues that you have is about expressing. It's about having a need and expressing that need. That's why you have the issues, in the cervical area. It's about, mind and body. It's about that connection where you express the need that you have, where you connect the mind with the body experience, and then you express a need that you have. So for you, it's not so important to get what you need. It's not that important. The most important thing is to ask for it. It's to be honest with yourself and ask for it. Yeah. And in that, it also lies for you to be comfortable to say yes and comfortable to say no. For you, both are equally difficult. Because you're not good at expressing yourself, you tend to manipulate people so they meet your needs. You're not good at expressing your needs. So therefore, saying a very, very clear yes is difficult. And saying a very, very clear no is difficult. So when I talk in the next Fetter about the body yes, body no, going in more into depth with that is going to be really, really difficult for you. And there will be a lot of things in the next Fetter about routines, harmful routines. There will be a lot of things for you to get there, because it's very much about having a need, expressing the need, meeting the need. and not diverting. And you have a huge tendency to divert, deflect and divert all the time. So practice feeling the body yes, body no. And if you can't feel a body yes, body no, then just practice to be honest with yourself and express a yes or no. Very, very clear without manipulating in any way. And the last thing is the sentence that I would like for you to use as your mantra. And the sentence is, I love myself, I matter. I love myself, I matter. And I would like for you to say that sentence over and over and over and over. Instead of thoughts, have that sentence over and over and over and over. And why it's so important for you to have the part about I matter, it is that it's the only way that you will kind of like solidify that you have a need and you can express that need safely. That only happens if you know that you matter. That was the issue all along. And it's also why that I really, really hope that if you are a passive-aggressive bully, that you have listened this far and have heard that this is an absolute love declaration for you. You know, it's a love declaration to the child that didn't have the feeling of matter. And you do. So please meet that. Please meet that. Now, the last type I'm going to talk about. If you are passive aggressive, you would have a tendency to rather want to be this type, but you're not. Please watch the recording about the passive aggressive bully, and please watch it to the end. The last type I would like to talk about is the chameleon. And the chameleon is the one that is altruistic. The other two are selfish and egoistic. And the difference is that you have a tendency to dissolve, to completely annihilate yourself. You have no idea of any needs that you have, any wants that you have. Your theme is that you feel uncertain. You're very, very doubtful. And you are the reason why I'm talking about these 3 toxic starting points that we have, because you belong here in doubt. The majority of issues you have in your life is about doubt. It's about that you're always uncertain. You're always comparing with other things. And you're always very much in your head. You have the skeptical doubt about everything. You have the emotional doubt about everything. And you're very, very uncertain about everything. The way that you get your way in the world is by not getting your way. It's by being toxic altruistic, which means that you're morphing into what you believe other people would like for you to be, or you are blending in, or you are accommodating, which means that you are never ever being met, and that's how you actually prefer it. You prefer not to be met. You prefer not to be seen. You prefer to blend in and not stick out in any way. So your issue is being in the world, which means that your symptoms are symptoms where it's an issue of being in the world, which means that you are the one with allergies. You have food allergies, you have environmental allergies, fabric softener, E-numbers, preservatives in food, pollen, grass, animals, dust. You have allergies for basically everything. You have asthma, you have lung issues where you create phlegm. You have a low immunity in general, so you always need to be careful. You always, catch whatever is going on in the neighborhood. You always get that. You have different phobias because it's about being in the world. So normal things of being in the world, you have phobias about. It can be phobias of firework, spiders, acrophobia. It can be like any kind of phobia. And you have OCD. You have a tendency to OCD where things needs to be very sorted in different ways. Things need to be done in a different way. And it's only for you to get that sense of structure that you haven't got, because you have no boundaries. You're morphing in and out of being, depending on who you're with. There's no clear, solid surrounding around you. You're very scattered in many ways. And where the others have a tendency to either be in the future or be regretting about the past, you just have an issue with life. You just have an issue with being alive. Not particularly about the future, not particularly about the past, both, but also very much right now. There's that jolting back and forth all the time. It's that issues with being in life in general that is your issue. And that is why you have no idea what you need and what you want. And if you know what you need and what you want, and other people want something else, you will accommodate right away. No questions asked. You're the one that is always there for other people, and they always ask you, because you always say yes, and you are happy to do it. There's no martyr in it at all. And this is where, if you are a passive-aggressive bully and you think that this is where you are at, this is one of the things that is proof that you're not here. Because the real chameleon is not even aware that they are suffering. They might know that things are not great, but there's no entitlement into things being better than what they are. Whereas if you're a passive-aggressive bully and you think you're here, then you tend to be a martyr, and everybody knows it. You are never ever suffering in silence. Everyone knows that you're suffering. So if everyone knows that you're suffering, if people know about your illnesses and your diseases and your struggles in life, you're not here. You need to listen to the recording about the passive-aggressive bully. That's where you're at. Because if you're a chameleon, you have completely annihilated yourself. That you don't exist. You don't have any need. You're not even aware of your needs. So therefore you can never make anybody aware of what you need, because you don't even know yourself. Whatever you might know that you would like, or you have a need about, or you have a want about, if anybody else wants something else, then you accommodate right away. There's never a putting you first. It would make sense. You would feel so guilty if you did that. So you would never ever do that. You would never do that. You might even have sensations of shame whenever you have a need or bodily sensation or want or anything like that. You might feel shame about what you are experiencing. Basic needs, and you feel shame. You feel guilty about other people needing to hug you. If you need a hug, you wouldn't ask about that. You will get a teddy bear and hug your teddy bear. And you tend to have issues in the upper part of the back. So this part here, but in the back. And that is thoracic part. So it's the mid back. So you have issues with the thoracic part. And it goes from around T3 to T10. And it's the sacral joint as well. That's where you have issues. So it looks like you're carrying around a backpack. And your vocabulary is very much about explaining. And the reason why you explain is because you need to justify. You're justifying everything. Every time you have a need for something, you justify why you have the need, and you apologize a lot for having the need, for any kind of inconvenience that other people, that they have with you having that need. You apologize and you justify why it's like that. You prefer for not to have the need, and you are willing to completely sacrifice all your ideas, everything you would like. You gladly and truly and honestly would like to sacrifice that for the other person to be more happy. Which means that you have a lot of self-blame and a lot of self-shame. It's rarely about other people. You are not the type that blame and shame other people. You're not the type that do that. You do, however, blame and shame yourself for everything. Everything is your fault, always. But it's not done with the martyr way. Again, it's not why you do it. You do it because you sincerely believe that that is how it is. A lot of people that are in the chameleon were raised by bullies. So you're completely believed when you were shamed or when there was complaining about you or blaming about you. You completely believed that. And that's why you became the chameleon. So your main theme is here in the second fetter. It is here about doubt. And I would recommend you to watch all the teachings here over and over and over. A lot of things are going to fall into place all by themselves when you really look into this toxic starting point. So the way that you create safety is through invisibility, is through not having any needs, not being visual in any way, not being seen in any way. That's how you feel safe. By blending in, that's how you feel safe. And the way that you blend in, you do with not speaking up, not knowing your opinion. And if you speak up, you are very, very supportive of other people. It's not so much about you supporting you. You have a tendency to altruism, which means that you have a tendency to support other people instead of supporting you. So you create that invisibility around you because for you, being in the world is unsafe. And that is what is also reflected in all the different conditions and diseases that you have. Is that foundational belief in the world being unsafe. And if we look at you also believe that the world is a hierarchy. The thing is, you're not in that. You're not included in that. The others are there, and the others have needs. They're there. You're somewhere over there. So you're like an outcast. You're castless. You don't belong in that. You have no right for any of the needs that you have. You have no right to put your foot down, and you probably wouldn't even think about putting your foot down. And the problem is that for you, it's really difficult to ask. You would never ever dream of asking to have your needs met because you have no idea what they are. You have no idea what they are. If you feel it, it's not counting at all. So there's no awareness around the needs that you have. So everything revolves around avoiding a conflict. So the main focus is to make other people happy or to have other people undisturbed, for people to, achieve what they want to do. And you're super, super supportive about that. And you never ever ask for them to support you. It doesn't even occur to you that you could do that. It's utterly absurd. And if you are in any kind of conflict, or if you're really, really pushed into displaying a need, into saying what you really, really want, then you will react with either flight or freeze. Where the aggressive bully is reacting with fight, you don't. You either freeze in a complete deer in the headlight, or you run. You run. Flight. Just out of there. Where the other ones, they wanted to be seen or to be heard, you would like to be ignored. Yeah. And the things that I would like for you to be aware of and to bring awareness to is that foundational belief that you have the world is not safe and you're not safe, and that every need that anyone else has is more important than yours. I would like for you to connect with you by doing just sitting meditations. So connect with your body and then you just sit. You're practicing being. It's what you need to practice. It's just being. So just sitting. Another exercise I warmly can recommend you, and that's great if you have a partner or if you have a really good friend, someone that you trust, and it's to sit with the other person and breathe with them. So you might sit back to back, you might sit front to front, but the most important thing is that there's a connection with the other person, and then when you inhale, they inhale, and when you exhale, they exhale. So you just sit and breathe with the other person. That is practicing being in the world with other people on par, on equal terms with the other person. I would like to make you aware that it's super, super provocative to do that, because you are so clearly on a really subconscious level, you're being made aware of the right that you have to be. So make sure that you do that with a friend or with a partner where you feel safe, where you can sit either back to back or front to front, and where you inhale and exhale together, so you breathe together. So your focus needs to be on being, and I would like for you to have like that body enjoyment. Start to enjoy your body. Start to enjoy how it is to have hands. Enjoy how it is to have feet. Enjoy how it is to move. Any kind of movement that you do, I would like for you to do it slowly. So it's like yin yoga, Qigong, Tai Chi, very, very slowly movements where you're very much aware of being and being. Walking meditation is another thing that's really, really great for you because it's so much a focus on being. So it's breathing and walking and breathing and being, and you're here and you're here and you're here. And the everyday contentment is also with a focus on you being in the world. So the contentment is about, the contentment that you bring awareness to is the contentment of being. I know that I normally say the joy of experiencing. I would like for you to have the contentment of experiencing, because for you it's about expanding where you are taking up much more space and you allowing yourself to take up much more space. So it's also about connecting with the body and feeling connected with the body, and that is one of the difficult things. You have a tendency to be very, very small and skinny, even if you're big. Even if you're big, in your mind, you're like small and skinny. It's like one of those Great Dane dogs that think that they are a lap dog. It's a bit like you know, that the way that you see yourself is very, 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 very small. And the body connectedness that I would like for you to have is where you slowly fill yourself out from the inside out. So you slowly take up more space. And that can be exercises where you're stretching out, twirling around with your arms out to the side, anything where you're making yourself big. Oops, where you're making yourself big. Anything where you are expanding yourself from the inside out, like you do with Qigong or with the yin yoga, or where you're very, very much aware and present in your body and expanding from the inside out, and having that body enjoyment of having a body, of feeling having a body, that you are completely entitled to be here. That is what I would like for you to have the focus on. So it's also about you being comfortable with taking up space. And just have an awareness about that. I would like for you to make notes about that. Comfortable about taking up space. How do you feel uncomfortable with taking up space? Because you feel that a lot. So just, write it down. Make it aware towards yourself. All the different ways that you feel uncomfortable with taking up space. So you start to be comfortable with taking up space. And then start to practice enjoyment. Enjoyment is a big one for you. You tend not to enjoy your body, you tend not to enjoy your food, you tend not to enjoy life, you tend not to enjoy it because you don't feel, as a casteless, you don't feel the right for that. And it's not even when I'm sitting and saying it, you go, it's not like that at all. But if you really, really look into it, you will see that, oh my goodness, there are different rules that apply to me than to others. Others are supposed to have their needs met. Why am I not supposed to have my needs met? That might never have occurred to you. So it's that completely dissolving yourself that you need to become aware of and create more space for. And the sentence that I would like for you to have is, I love myself, I'm here. I love myself, I'm here. And create space to you actually being here. And by that, you're dissolving the toxic starting point where you have an underlying belief that you're not supposed to be here. You are. You're supposed to be here and you are here. So become aware. This is for all three types. Become aware of that gap. And ask yourself, what am I not aware of right now? What needs my attention right now? Where do I need to place my focus right now? How can I become more connected with my body? How can I dissolve that toxic starting point? How can I look into that completely delusion of who I am, who I let myself to believe that I am? How can I let go of that? What am I not aware of right now? And then you use your body as a guide, where you get from your mind into your body and be directed with your body to where you're supposed to go. So for all three types, I really, really hope that you have heard that I'm telling you this with so much love and compassion. This is about you discovering that the old belief that you had, the logic conclusion that you made with an immature mind, with an immature psychology, immature emotional being, those conclusions that you made, they fit and were a survival mechanism for then. They're not relevant anymore. You know, you can make contact. You can make contact with you right now. Make contact with your body right now. So look into what was and just create space for what is. When you catch yourself in either one, because you will probably also see that you might be one of them primarily, but you do recognize yourself in the other ones. And that's because these are only concepts. You know, it's only concepts. None of it is real. It's only concepts I'm making to bring clarity to how we survive in the world. So you might recognize yourself in all three. If that is the case, whenever you catch yourself in being in one of the three, please stop. Breathe. Connect with your body and ask yourself, can I be in a body where this is what is present right now? And it's either a yes, I can. I actually can. I'm an adult now. My childhood is not there anymore. The trauma has ended years ago. I can be in a body where this is relevant and present right now. You might also feel that, no, I can't. I can't be in a body where I'm this aggressive. I can't be in a body where I'm this manipulative. I can't be in a body where I need to take up space. Seriously, I cannot be in a body where that is the case. Okay, fine. Breathe. Keep breathing. Can you accept that you cannot be in a body where this is the case right now? Just keep meeting yourself with unconditional acceptance and space. What you were not met with then is what you need to meet yourself with now. You need to be your own loving mother and protective father. You know, if you didn't have that, it's time for you to step out to the plate and be that now. Make sure that you take care of yourself. You know, all the different aspects of you that needs love and compassion, you meet that with love and compassion. So this is only about dissolving the toxic starting point, for you to become aware of when you have a toxic starting point. You don't need to do anything about it. The only thing you need to is become aware of it. And when you are aware of it, it will dissolve itself. I absolutely, utterly promise you, you do not need to do anything. The only thing you have to do is just bring awareness to it, and then it will dissolve itself. Then you will move in to the category that we talk about in the next lesson, which is about the emotional indicators. But this lesson was about teaching you about the toxic starting point, where we are super, super toxic, and where we have an underlying emotion that has created and shaped our hormonal patterns that makes us into one or the other, or all three if you're a lucky one. So what you have seen when we go through this is that you go through a process of acknowledgement, accepting, and understanding. And acknowledgement and accepting is the ones that we are in the most. Acknowledgement takes the longest. Accepting is the most difficult one. There's something that you acknowledge. You might acknowledge, I'm a passive-aggressive bully. You acknowledge that is the case. You cannot, however, accept that is the case, which means you need to go back to acknowledging there's more there for you to acknowledge. And when you have acknowledged all of it, you can start to accept it. Then you can work with acceptance towards it. And if you still, there might be aspects that you can accept. I am a passive-aggressive bully because I'm a product of my childhood. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not shaming anyone. I'm not complaining anyone. I might be complaining a little bit. Okay, back to acknowledge. So you go back and forth between acknowledge and accept until you can unconditionally accept what is. When that happens, then understanding follows all by itself. It happens in a flick of a second. You don't even notice that it has happened. And then it's just resolved. For some people, they don't even see that they're going through acknowledge, accept, and understand. That just hear and realize, oh my goodness, that was what I was doing. I never asked for what I wanted. I was always waiting for other people to meet my needs. I'm not going to do that anymore. Sort it. And then it's just, run through this process. But what I would like to recommend for you when you are aware of where you are in this, then just be unconditional when you're in the gap. When you are in between here and you're pulling yourself up to the 5th floor and you're looking down at it and seeing, okay, there's lots and lots and lots of things here that I cannot acknowledge and I cannot accept, and I'm just creating space and creating space. Be unconditional. Don't have any kind of expectations, any kind of assumptions, any kind of preferences. You're just with whatever needs your attention. And then when we come to the 3rd fetter, I'm going to talk more about a body yes, body no. I have already talked a bit about it previously in the lessons here in doubt. I've talked about the body yes, body no. But it is basically when you feel a yes, I want to do something, or a no, I do not want to do that. And what I have taught you today about the 3 different survival mechanisms that we have had, that has been, an experience we have had, sensation that we have created a label on, that became a feeling, that we then repeated over and over, that became an emotion, and then it started to shape our hormonal pattern, and that's how we ended up with the toxic starting point. When you become aware of that, I have given you exercises to work with, but you can always, when in doubt, make contact with your body. Feel how it is to be in your body, how it is to be you in the world. Yeah, I think that was it. If you have any questions, feel free to write me. And I really would recommend you to get a guide and to join Vince's Sunday meeting and to listen to this lesson over and over and over. Make sure that you make notes and make sure that you are with you when you're out and about. I'm rooting for you. I'm for sure with you when you're out and about. Thank you.